topic that I decided to do was blended families in marriage and family therapy. So with the experimental procedure, there is these families that are going through divorce or separation, and they get to this 5-day camp and they go on hikes, they go rafting, fishing, all these activities, and they do this because the parents are having trouble with their child refusing contact with them after going through the separation or divorce. So there's two parents in this example. So one of them is the favored parent. They are the primary parent and they have a better relationship with the child. The rejected parent or the secondary parent feels outcasted and ignored by the child and the other parent. So the psychologists at the camp meet with the family and the parents and the children individually and together, and they kind of discuss tactics and ideas that will help the family. So the goal of the camp is to leave the camp having agreed on shared parent time. And so they achieve this by designing interventions that put the rejected parent in an environment that they can communicate and interact with the child. So the behavior towards the rejected parent, so in all of 3 research studies that I researched, the rejected parent would make contact with the child and the child would present many concerns of hatred, fears, anxiety, and many symptoms of distress. In some cases there was extreme resistance and total refusal with the parent, and then there was verbal and physical contact in some instances. So the rejected parent had a hard time connecting with the child through the activities that they would do, and the common theme between the research was that the children were resistant and didn't know how to act around the rejected parent. So in this slide with the behavior towards the favored parent, the children separated, when they were separated from the favored parent, they expressed affection and evident boundary diffusion along with separation issues. So the child tended to have a variety of adjustment problems when they would go with this other parent, and in the therapy sessions this was brought up in all 3 research articles, and this was a really hard barrier to cross. So in this video clip, the presenter does a fantastic job about talking about the positives of co-parenting and kind of the steps and accomplishments that you can overcome by working with your co-parent, and the overall happiness that comes from this as you handle this in a really responsible way. So with the statistics that we see here, I thought that it was really interesting that the fathers only saw their kid 1 to 3 times a month. That was so crazy and hard for me to believe that. But this makes sense because the children had such a hard time connecting with that other parent, because that other parent was practically a stranger, and only seeing them 1 to 3 times a month, like, it makes sense why that child has such a hard time going with them and has a hard time separating from that other parent. So the mothers talked negatively about the fathers because they were upset about not getting the child support and the financial issues that would come with this. So this creates an even bigger barrier between the child and the parents, because when the child hears the parent talk poorly about the other parent, it makes it even harder for the child to go with that parent. And then in some of the instances, a lot of the children discuss their sadness and kind of jealousy and hatred when a new child was brought into the relationship. They felt like they were betrayed from the other parent, and they kind of felt left out, like they weren't as getting much time. And so this was a big problem and a really common theme, because there was a lot of new children brought into a remarriage. And so this was a big thing that the therapist had to work through, because the jealousy of that child, and they still wanted to make everyone feel included. And so the last statistic here, with about 30% of children projected to live with a step parent before the age 18, I found that statistic kind of crazy because that's a big percentage of people living with someone that they weren't born with. And so I think that was just a common theme that I thought was interesting. So with the therapeutic viewpoints, the biggest thing was the time spent with the child. And the overall most important thing was when the fathers or the mothers or the rejected parent spent that time and that communication with that parent. And when the fathers spent more time with their child, they were more likely to pay child support. A big thing that worked was coming up with a plan and just how the parents would interact with each other that was okay and responsible in front of the child. And then after being at the camp for a few days, the child actually saw how much the rejected parent cared about them, and so their relationship was a lot stronger and a lot better. And then the relationship between the mother and father, as that got better, the relationship between the child and the parents got better as well. And then these are my references.